Everyone, Stephanie here, your host for the Feature Friday. We are live again with Cordant Winery, and we're going to be doing something fun and different today. We have a fun surprise. I even named the live, so you guys will see that. We are just going to be waiting a couple minutes, couple seconds, however long it takes. Our winemaker will be joining us, of course. Oh, I see him. I see the request. He should be coming up. Awesome. Hi, Riker. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Happy Friday. Feature
Happy.
Friday. Yeah. So, I actually even named the Feature Friday. Yay, we're getting even better at this. And I'm going to tell everyone that we are launching something super special that we're going to be taking you through a little journey over the next couple of weeks. We are launching our Cases for a Cause campaign. Now through the 4th of July, we are going to be fundraising through our Pinot Flight sale for the military aviation community and flying. Again, for those of you who don't know, I'm Stephanie. My husband and I are partners in the winery. He is currently serving, he's active duty, we're a military family, and he is deployed on the Theodore Roosevelt and is a helicopter pilot. And this campaign is especially important to us. We're partnering with the Wingman Foundation. It was started to support the Navy and Marine aviation community and all of those who are part of the community. So whether you're the pilot, whether you're the maintenance, the crewman in the back, the guys on the ground, if you have any part of the aviation community, the Wingman Foundation was started to support these families when a Class A mishap happens. A Class A mishap is a fatality. So, it's a pretty big campaign for us. My husband's squadron back in 2021 actually experienced one of these Class A mishaps during a training, which a lot of people don't know. A lot of mishaps happen during the training process and not just always on the front lines. And so the Wingman Foundation came in and supported those families. And so we wanted to partner with them for this campaign. You'll see we have this handy dandy flyer, which is super awesome. Our winemaker put together a flight. So when you purchase, you'll get our Pinot Noir flight and you guys can sip on it. You'll also get this fun thank you card. This just kind of explains a little bit more about the campaign, the why it matters to us. You can actually even scan to read about the 5 service members who, paid the ultimate sacrifice, that sacrificed their lives for our freedom, and that their memory will live on. And so, we'll talk a little bit about that. Riker, if you want to get started talking about the wines and talk us through which ones we picked. And we're going to go through a 5-week series here on the wines.
Thanks, Steph. So I just want to point out your background's way better than mine.
Put up Old Glory.
Yeah.
She's a little old. Yes, but yeah, I thought for this, I put her up while we go through this campaign and got.
I need to put a flag maybe to hang up in the office here. I was planning to do it in the bail room, but we have a private event tonight, so it's just backwards in there right now. I'm like, maybe we keep it a little cleaner.
Yeah. And that's super fun. For those of you who don't know, we also do private events, private tastings. You can meet with the winemaker, Riker here, or anyone else, or back in the barrel room. It's super fun. So that's great. That's going to be exciting for tonight.
Yeah, so I think before we jump in the wines, one thing I did want to point out too is that, wine in and of itself is a luxury beverage, right? And I oftentimes find it like a little bit of a crisis of consciousness when it comes to like, what are we actually doing with all of these things? Like in the greater picture of life, like how does it actually work into anything? And I think partnering with something like the Wingman Foundation, or we did an event up in Big Sur that helped the hospital up there, and things like that. Like, these are little things that I feel like, you know, we can do to kind of pay back in a lot of ways. And so it's just such a great thing. Stephanie, you were the one that brought this to us, so we're very thankful to be doing this. And you know, it just kind of puts it all into context a little bit. So, but yeah, it's really great.
To mention, we're giving back. We're donating. We're giving back 20% of the proceeds of everyone who purchases the flight back to the Wingman Foundation. And our goal is by the 4th of July, we are trying to sell 248 3-packs cases because that is how old America is turning. So it'll be a super fun campaign that we're going to be running for the summer. You can shop it now, especially with Memorial Day coming up. It's a great way to memorialize those and kind of just learn a little bit more about the sacrifices and the different communities within the military, especially right now, you know, wow, what everything that's going on in our world, it's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, so just as Stephanie has mentioned, 20% of all the proceeds are going to be donated to this foundation. That's why we're doing it. So, yeah, why don't I go ahead and jump into the wines a little bit and talk about our flight, if you will. And, you know, sticking with kind of the theme of Cordant, us being a Pinot Noir house, as well as doing the Rhones, you know, I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to, like, let's actually put together a proper Pinot Noir flight. This is something that for anyone that's watching, wants to come into the winery, into the tasting room and say, hey, we're huge fans of Pinot. I mean, I would say, I don't have a percentage, but a good number of people that come in as walk-ins to the tasting room go, oh, I heard you have Pinot, because there's not a lot of Pinot being poured here in Paso Robles. The region itself is not known for Pinot Noir, but the advantage for us is that we source all of our fruit. And so the grapes are coming from as far south as Santa Barbara and as far north as Monterey. We make let's see, I'm going to be bottling the 2022s on Tuesday. So 4 single vineyard Pinot Noirs being bottled. However, the 21s, it's 3. And then we make a blended Pinot Noir that spans the entire 200 miles up and down the Central Coast. So that being said, I have the wines in front of me. Let's see if I can kind of get a bottle shot here. Not quite. Stephanie has them as well.
Yes, I can
really shoddy camera work, and it might be backwards, I'm realizing, because it's the mirror. But to start out, we have 2022 Hyperbole. Yeah, it's all backwards. It's fine. If you guys take your phone and put it in a mirror, it will be right side.
like in the bathroom.
So the first wine is 2022 Hyperbole. The second wine is going to be 21 Escol. Yep. And then third wine is 2021 Radian Vineyard Pinot Noir.
Awesome. That's this one here.
Yep. And so the reason we picked these is because I'll start with Hyperbole, because it's a good kind of jumping off point for a tasting. This is the Central Coast appellated blended Pinot Noir. We had tasted this a few weeks ago because we're releasing it. And the cool thing is that it comes from 5 different vineyard sites, and it's going to be 5 different soil types as well. Like I mentioned, Paso isn't really known for Pinot Noir because we're too hot. Our soils are great for it. Limestone, it's what you would find in Burgundy in France. However, it's just too warm for Pinot Noir, so we do have to go to the coast. That oftentimes means that we're playing with different types of soils. So the first vineyard that kind of is what I would call the workhorse of this wine is a vineyard called Norgrove. It's down, it's technically Slow Coast AVA, that being San Luis Obispo Coast. It's down near Pismo Beach, if anyone knows where that is. If anyone's familiar with the winery Letitia, it's like across the freeway from Letitia. So the soils down there are kind of unique. There's some sandstone, there's kind of some shale, some kind of like broken rocks and stuff, but the soils themselves are very acidic soils. And so we tend to find that the wine is very fruity, very kind of like those red fruits that like raspberry, cherry, strawberry. It's like very what I would consider Central Coast Pinot, um, and the acids in the wine tend to be very round. Whereas if you go to something like Radian Vineyard, which we have on the single vineyard, the acids are a little bit more linear, a little bit more angular.
Okay.
So that's the first vineyard. The second being a vineyard called Jack Ranch, which is in Edna Valley. A lot of people might be familiar with that area. Still technically slow coast, so very cold. The soils there are kind of more clay loam sort of thing, so a little bit more water holding capacity than we would get. We then do, let's see, a little bit of Radian actually does go into this wine.
Okay.
That kind of notches us up just slightly in terms of texture and mid palate, as well as it brings a nice kind of spice component to the wine. We then blend, let me see, a little bit of a Skull. I think there's a barrel or two of a Skull, which is also a single vineyard that we have in the flight. And then the last vineyard is Coast View. So Coast View, not technically known for Pinot Noir. We make a Coast View Syrah off that vineyard. It's a little bit warmer. Yep, exactly. Higher up on the hill, and by higher I mean much higher. It's like 2,200 feet above the ocean, and the soils up there are granite with fingers of limestone. So because the vineyard's so high, there's a lot of sun, like sun radiation and sun exposure. And so the skins of the grapes get a little thicker and we get a lot of texture in that. And so all of those basically span all 200 miles. I have my map.
Awesome. Yes.
So Radian is down here. Coast View's like up here. And so this is basically 200 miles up and down the Central Coast. As I mentioned, 5 different soil types. And that's exactly what hyperbole is.
Wow. So yeah, you really get a lot of flavor in that Pex Punch.
Yep. And so what's fun about this is that you can really kind of zoom out. We see the whole map. When people come in and they say they want a Pinot tasting, this is our jumping off point. We'll go ahead and pour this wine for them and kind of say, here's what we're all about. From there, we can then zoom in to the specifics. I didn't mention, this is also one of our Cuvée series wines. So it's a blend, therefore it's a Cuvée. We then move into the terroir series, and that's going to be, we'll start with a Skull.
Yes, got it. Okay, and then this is the Skull Vineyard. So for people who are wondering about the name, this is the specific vineyard that we source it from versus the Radian.
Yep.
And so then where are those located on the map?
So what we wanted to do was spread in 2 separate directions. So Skull is north. It's in the Santa Lucia Highlands, which is kind of on the west side of the Salinas River Valley. The soils here are sandy loam. They tend to have a little bit more water holding capacity than you would get in Radian, just because they're a little bit deeper. It's very, very cold. If you're driving 101 north and you go north of Paso and you're going up the Salinas River Valley that way towards Monterey, you'll see mountains to your right and mountains to your left. All of a sudden, the mountains to the left kind of drop off and it opens up Monterey Bay. A Skull's like right there on the drop off.
Cool.
And you'll, as you're driving up, windmills, and they're like ripping.
Oh, yeah.
So the air coming from Monterey is really funneled kind of down into that valley, and the vineyard is like right in the crosshairs of that. So very windy, very cold, oftentimes very foggy, and it's like perfect Pinot growing weather. We also didn't mention, but subsequently in our next couple Friday features, we'll actually be opening these and tasting them, and we'll be going into a little bit more detail and all that. But just for now, we kind of wanted to just give a general overview. So. But anyways, yeah, that vineyard's really cool. A lot of mid palate in this wine. It's probably our fattest Pinot Noir, if I could say that. David and Deanne love this, our owners. They're huge fans of like Sonoma, like William Sellium, and Rocchioli, like those kinds of wines. I find this, it's not the same obviously, but it has kind of that DNA in it a little bit. So
I'm excited to get into that in the
yeah,
next. And
totally. What was that?
the Radian.
Radiant Vineyard. This is my personal favorite. This is Santa Rita Hills. So this is down in Santa Barbara. So very, very south.
Okay.
Has actually one of the longest growing seasons in all of California. A lot of people don't realize that. And it is arguably even colder than a Skoal. We're about 7 miles from the ocean there. It sits at about, I want to say, between, I think it was like 200 and 600 feet. So there's not a lot of elevation, but it's enough to get you up so that like the wind and the fog is just directly on the grapes. They actually have to do this crazy thing where their pruning technique is quadrilateral cordon. So if you look at a vine, it'll come up and then split. They'll come up and they'll split too. And that's just to get enough shoots growing vertically to block the wind. And then in one of our 2 blocks that we source from, they actually will put up shade cloth during flowering, which is very unusual, not for shading sun, but to, again, block the wind. Because if there's too much wind, I think we mentioned this maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, but it'll knock that flower off and you can have really high shatter in the vineyard.
Yes, we talked about that, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And it's like super steep hillsides, all diatomaceous earth. So the soils are very unique, similar to limestone, but different for a number of reasons we'll go into when we taste the wine in a couple weeks. But like drastically different than a Skoal. It's not so much mid palate in this wine. This is more of that like acid and tannin in the wine. It has more muscle to it, let's say, a little bit more structure. So yeah, I'm so happy to be pouring all of these together side by side. And it's really fun to kind of see the diversity of the Central Coast through the lens of Pinot Noir. And I think this bundle is just, you know, killer deal, it's just so fun to open them all together. So yeah.
That's super great. I love that we're definitely getting the taste of the Central Coast for joining. So it would be our Cases for a Cause 3-pack bundle. So the Hyperbole is the cuvee where it's the blend of everything. And then we picked 2 different Pinots, North and South, which are the Terroir single vineyard. And again, we are going to be donating 20% of the case. We're calling it Cases for a Cause. It's a 3-pack. And 20% of the proceeds are going to the Wingman Foundation. I actually dropped the link to purchase in the comments for those of you who are seeing it. And I wanted to quickly just go over the little thank you.
Yep.
And we're printing it out, but like the mission, their foundation, and the oath. And so for the Wingman Foundation, it's really to honor and sacrifice all of the fallen air warriors and support the families that they've left behind. And I think this is super timely with Memorial Day coming up, and just kind of remembering those who lost their lives for our great country. Their foundation is to ensure that our fallen heroes are never forgotten, and the loved ones that they leave behind are always supported. They're an all-volunteer, veteran-founded nonprofit organization dedicated to providing immediate post-mishap support for the Navy and Marine Corps aviation community and their families. And that their oath is, regardless of whether you're an aircraft maintainer, your air crew, you're a pilot, or you're on the crew deck, if you are associated with the Navy and the Marine Corps aviation community, they will never leave a wingman behind. And so that is what we are going to be celebrating. Again, you'll get this fun flyer on the back. It'll tell you just a little bit more about Corey, my husband, and the command, and each of the wines that we have selected. And you can read about those service members. So, with that being said, we'll go through each of the wines for the rest of leading up to the 4th of July. We're trying to campaign to sell 248 3-pack cases, which is how old America is turning for the 4th of July. So it's going to be super fun. And our hope is that you guys really enjoy the wine, that you enjoy the cause, and that you follow along with us over the next couple of weeks where we'll go through each of the wines individually. And then in the last week, we'll actually pour all of them and taste all of them together. So it'll be a super fun time. We hope that you join us for the journey. Riker, do you have any other last thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Last thing I'll say is that tomorrow is going to be Paso Robles Wine Fest. I will be there with some flyers. We are going to be pouring the 22 Hyperbole and the 21 Radian.
Great.
So if anyone is watching and they're going to be at Paso Robles Wine Fest, please stop by. We would love, love, love to talk to anybody. You can taste some of the wines. I can give you a flyer. We got some complimentary tasting cards. We've got some other wines. But anyways, yeah, we're really excited to be launching this. I guess it's a fundraiser kind of. And tomorrow's going to be great. So yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. And for those of you who are just joining, if you missed this, as always, it's recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel. I'll also be sending out an email, so don't delete it. Look at my email. And you'll see it on our Instagram. So, okay, well, with that, it's a wrap. Thank you guys for joining us. It was a little bit shorter this week, but next week we'll dive into each of the wines. And I'll also be updating you on our campaign, 248 cases. We'll have a countdown going. We really want your support. Link is already in the comments. Be the first person to purchase right now, and you'll get your handy flyer, and you can learn more about it. Thank you guys so much, Riker. It's always a pleasure seeing you. Happy. Hope you have a send content for tomorrow.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
See you, Steph.